Hello again and welcome to another week of Collector's Lot. We're in Cambridgeshire this week at this unique wooden house that's an inspiration to anyone with an interest in design and a tribute to the creative skill of its owners. We'll be meeting them in just a minute. As usual, I'll be throwing open the doors to collectors of everything imaginable. Coming up on today's show, we'll be meeting a craftsman making a sculpture of a horse's head, getting the measure of a collector of weighing machines, and we're honoured by the presence of the first female Avenger. But first, let's have a proper look around this house. A few weeks ago, Lisa Goddard met the couple whose wacky ways with a paintbrush are evident inside and out.
It may look as though I'm in New England, USA, but in fact I'm in plain old England, the Fens, relaxing outside one couple's vision that is quite simply called the wooden house. Wes, how did you find this, the wooden house?
My wife Amanda just found two lines written in the local property page saying a small wooden house in third of an acre wood in Cottenham. So it just sounded very interesting. So we came out on a lovely summer's afternoon to have a look, and we climbed over the gate and we couldn't see the house. It was completely overgrown with cow parsley and bushes and hedges. And it was like an Enid Blyton Famous Five thing. We tried to find the house, and it was just this tiny little wooden white painted house with a conservatory. There was just so many possibilities, and we just fell in love with it. We thought that initially, when we redesigned it with a friend of ours who's an architect, that we would actually modify the old house that was there. But when we actually got into the bones of the old building, you know, the first corner was rotten, the second corner, third, and eventually we took the whole thing down. So the building as it stands now is completely new. There's nothing left, only I think there's just one piece of small conservatory left from the old building, and everything else is brand new. Because it was all so green, as I said, when we first arrived we couldn't hardly see the house. There was so much green in the environment that you felt that it could really do with being brightly coloured. So we decided to start off with bright colours, thinking that we would do one or two rooms with bright colours and then go back to our usual kind of, you know, white with a hint of apple or whatever. But it never happened, it just escalated. And we had a book called Caribbean Style, which has some most wonderful colours, from little tin sheds on beaches up to the big plantation houses. And we just fell in love with all the colours.
Have new rooms grown over the years?
The initial children's bedrooms were downstairs, so we were in earshot of them during the night. As they've got older, we've kind of relegated them to the tower. The kitchen's been made bigger, which used to be half Harriet's bedroom. But being a wooden structure, that's so easy to do. You can just cut it away and just make rooms bigger.
What, you just get out a chainsaw or what?
Yep, if you want a window, just chainsaw a hole, noggin it out, finish it off, and there you go. Half an hour later, you've got a window.
So, Amanda, you were the one who found the house. Do you hanker for less colour?
I like the colour. I sometimes hanker for less objects. I sometimes dream of having beautiful spaces where just light falls and there's one perfect piece of art. But as you can see, you can't see anything because there's so much. So there, I feel now that there has to be a stop, and if he wants to bring anything else into this house, he has to take something out. I see that the children also are great collectors. I mean, I try to go into their rooms with black bin bags and fill them, but it doesn't work, and they've got little hoards of things, so it's obviously a genetic sort of kleptomaniac sort of feeling that they've got, that we all seem to have bits. But nothing's worth very much, it's just bits. But I mean, it is fun, but as I say, there is going to be a point when no more.
Fabulous, isn't it? Everywhere you look, there's something quirky to make you smile. Now, we've been making Collector's Lot for quite some time, but it never ceases to amaze me what new things people find to collect. My first guest today has been collecting since he was 18 and has managed to amass this amazing array of cigarette papers over the last 25 years. Welcome to the programme.
Thank you, Debbie.
This is an unusual thing to collect. It's something that normally goes up in a puff of smoke. So why did you decide to keep them?
I started collecting, as I say, when I was about 18. I began getting some of the more decorative ones, and I found it interesting, and it just went on from there, really.
Some of them are really decorative. I mean, we've got some here with strawberries and cherries and chocolates on them. Are they actually flavoured cigarette papers?
Yes, indeed, some of them are, yes. You've got the coconut one, strawberry, banana. Banana seems to be quite a common flavour among cigarette papers.
And are a lot of these from the States? I see some here with the Stars and Stripes and the American Eagle. I can see some dollar bill ones here too. So these are ones you've got from the States?
Yes, most of the decorative ones and the brightly coloured ones comes from the States, certainly.
What about these rock ones down here, the Who, Led Zeppelin and so forth? Where are they from?
Yes, those ones are actually Spanish. They seem to be popular amongst the holiday makers out in Spain, and there's quite a bit of a market for them out there.
Do you know of any other cigarette paper collectors?
I do. There's about a dozen other collectors around the world who I communicate with, and we sort of exchange and go on from there.
So how many do you reckon you have all together now?
I'd say about 3,000.
Oh, wow.
3,000 different types.
And you must be a smoker yourself?
I do smoke, yes, indeed, yeah.
And which kind do you favour the most?
I prefer licorice papers.
What, ones that actually taste of licorice?
Actually taste of licorice, that's right.
What's the history of cigarette papers? When did they first start
Well,
manufacturing them?
nobody's actually too certain, but it's believed to have started in the 16th century. When they began actually rolling their own. It's certainly well documented that during the Napoleonic War and the Crimean War, they were sort of popular, and again during the First World War.
And what were they first made out of?
It's first made out of rice paper, and later other types of paper have come in, like hemp and flax.
So how did a brand like Rizla, for example, get its name?
Well, Rizla is in fact a pun on the people who actually set up the Rizla business, Lacroix brothers. Riz means rice in French, and Lacroix, and hence the name Rizla has come from the pun on the word Riz Lacroix.
Right. There are some dominant themes here. I see a lot with the Nile, pyramids, the Sphinx. Egyptology is obviously a dominant theme.
It is very much so, yes. Africa and Gitzer and quite a few of the firms actually homing on this Egyptian theme. There are various reasons for it, and one of them is the Egyptian tobacco plantations, which actually caused it to happen.
Some very decorative ones. I mean, I love those gold Art Deco ones that you've got down at the front. Is that part of the fun for you, the sheer variety of them?
Absolutely it is, yes. It's this sort of difference in types, this sort of sheer sort of beauty of some of the packs. Yeah.
From the collector's point of view, I imagine these domino ones are very collectible.
They are. There's a complete range of the domino ones. Each one of those packs has a different domino on them. So you sort of go out and you collect the whole of the series of them.
And these are fun too, the rainbow ones.
That's
Not
right,
only
indeed,
the rainbow
yes.
pack, but rainbow ones for roll-ups there too.
Absolutely.
Well, it's extraordinary to see them all, and I'm most grateful to you for bringing them all along to
It's
show
an
us.
absolute
Thanks
pleasure.
a lot.
No problem, thank you.
Now it's time for our first visit of the week to the metal sculptor Valenti Pytel, one of Britain's most acclaimed craftsmen. He's internationally renowned for his creations of birds and beasts made out of scrap metal. Today we start by finding out more about the man and his work.
I started doing a little bit of paper sculpture, and quite accidentally I found that I had quite a flair for it, using flat sheet of white paper and actually building up lovely animals and bird shapes. And I thought, right, well, if I can bend the paper, surely I can bend thin pieces of metal. And one of the things that actually influenced me a lot, because I spent a terrific amount of time on the River Wye fishing. I would see otters and different types of birds. Kingfishers would come whizzing by. And I got to know the wildlife and the anatomy and the sort of shape and proportions of all the birds that surrounded me. And that's what I started off, making herons and kingfishers and dippers. In the early days, I couldn't afford expensive materials. I couldn't afford bronze. So I used to go into skips and I used to go around factories, and well, the steel actually itself has a certain quality to it. What it represents to me, it's the strength of it, because a lot of people used to say, well, you're doing a very delicate type of bird or an animal. And they say, how can you do that in steel, you see? But the way I've developed my work, and I do a certain, my welding in the early days wasn't all that good. And when you weld, you actually, what one doesn't want, you get a lot of splatter from the welding rod. That gives lots of little textures. And because I couldn't weld properly, more and more splatters came, and I thought, right, well, why not utilize that? So the steel has this great strength, and yet by having all this splatter work on it, gave it a sort of softness. Well, one of my big breaks was where the Queen's Silver Jubilee came up. I spent quite a bit of time making a rather elaborate model of the sort of sculpture that I felt would be appropriate for the House of Parliament. And they commissioned me, and I was so delighted to get this, and this was quite some time ago. And I was tremendously honoured to have been asked to do such an important piece of sculpture. The fact that I haven't been taught sculpture, I feel, in fact, that I have developed a certain technique. Had I been educated into sculpture, I would have been thinking like the old masters and how they actually made pieces of work. If I stick to the one subject of the wildlife, the animals, and especially the bird subjects, that's what I'll perfect. I've been doing sculptures for a long, long time, and I'm just now, after say 30 years, I'm just now beginning to grasp what I'm doing.
Make sure you're watching tomorrow when Valenti starts work on the sculpture. The break's next, but don't go away. Coming up in part 2, an Avengers fan meets his heroine, and I'll be weighing up a collection of different measuring implements. See you in a couple of minutes. Welcome back to Collector's Lot. My next guest may have only been collecting for 3 years, but he certainly hasn't wasted a moment, as in that time he's managed to build up a collection that certainly measures up to our very high standards. This is a super collection. Peter, how did it all start?
It started when I retired after a working life in the construction industry. My chairman presented me with this level, which to me sums up the construction industry.
And I suppose this one also is from that sort of field.
That's for land surveying, and also used in difficult setting out, motorways, that sort of thing.
So then you became interested in all sorts of facets
I did,
of measuring.
yes. My wife asked me to go to a collector's fair with her, and I spotted all sorts of things. I thought, well, yes, measurement generally, it touches our life everywhere. I'll start looking at things like that.
What have we got over here, these glass
Well,
items?
these glass will be apothecaries' or chemists' measures. From a variety of places, all different measurements in drams and fluid ounces. A lot of them are interesting because we can tell where they were used. That one comes from Worcester, I believe.
And this one here at the front we've got, this tankard, that's got an inscription too, hasn't it?
That's from the commercial hotel in Burnley. Unfortunately been demolished some years ago, but visions of people drinking happily out of that in the past.
So quite a few of these things are related to measuring alcohol, are they?
Yes, they are indeed. This lot here, and these would have been bar measures. This set actually comes from Dundee in the late Victorian.
What have we got in the wooden case just there?
Well, we're still on the drinks question here. A hydrometer, which was invented by a chap called Sykes after a competition that was set up by the excise board, because all pubs made their own beers and things in those days, and the excise man were never sure what the gravity would be. So this was invented by Sykes. He won some money as a result, and they were in use from about 1816 up until 1907. That was used not far from where I live in Eccles.
What about those rods in that rather splendid leather case
still
there?
on the same subject. These form a dipstick, if you like. They all join together, screw together, and the excise man could having decided the volume of the alcoholic content, he could dip the barrels by joining these together, has a series of graduations for different sizes of barrels. So he could then determine how much duty was payable.
We've got all sorts of different sets of scales here. Just talk me through what would have been the uses for some of these.
Well, there's a set here of 4 postal scales, the oldest being this one from about 1870s. I'll just demonstrate, there's a letter going on there. You can see the pendulum at the bottom moves, and we can read off it's something like ½ an ounce. It tells us on the top here that anything up to an ounce, it costs 4p to post.
Remarkable, isn't it? Pre-inflation, when you could guarantee the price wasn't going to go up for a while.
It did change later on a couple of times. These are from the 1890s, by which time we can see on here it had dropped to a penny. Presumably communications and the train service had improved. These are much later, in about 1920s or 30s, and general post office scales in use up until metrication. You still find them in some of the old post offices with new metric weights.
½ ounce, 1 ounce, and so forth.
Yes.
What about these over here? These look like they might have come from a lab or something.
Yes, they'd probably be used in a school, a chemical balance. Got a Bakelite base, which makes it collectible to other people as well as people like myself. And is generally used, you can get rough weights by moving these along the beam at the top. For more accurate weighing, one would use these weights here, which would require tweezers. They're so small to get them on and off the pans as you're weighing.
This is a curiosity with the egg balanced on the top.
Yes, it's got a Victorian stamp on it. My wife assures me that in Mrs. Beaton's book, her recipe book, the eggs were weighed to equal the weight of flour if you're making a sponge, for instance. So there's the proof that Mrs. Beaton's right.
Amazing. And this must be the star of your collection. This is a beautiful piece.
This is my favourite piece, which is a sextant. I like to imagine just how many parts of the world that's been in guiding them to a safe landfall on many occasions.
Lovely to see it all. Thank you very much for bringing it into show.
My pleasure to bring you. Thank you.
Now to a cult television series which epitomised the swinging 60s with the suave secret agent Steed and his sexy sidekicks. Honor Blackman was the first, and some say the best, female Avenger, famous for her catsuits and kinky boots. We sent her time-travelling down memory lane to meet one of the programme's biggest fans.
The original Avengers series ran from 1961 to 1969. It starred Patrick Macnee as the debonair, bowler-hatted John Steed, and he was ably assisted by 3 fascinating females. The first one was me, the second was Diana Rigg, and the third was Linda Thorson. My mission today is to grill a mastermind known as the Collector. It would appear that he has kept a file on everything the Avengers have ever done. Ian, you have the most stunning collection of Avengers memorabilia here. Tell me, how did you first get involved? I mean, what fascinated you about the Avengers to start off with?
I think it was basically when I was a child, I just fell in love with the storylines and how offbeat they were and how bizarre they were. And I picked up an annual when I was passing a junk shop. It's the very first thing I had, and it just went from there. I just became addicted.
Tell me, truthfully, who is your favourite character out of all of the Avengers?
Cathy Gale. I love the Cathy Gale episode.
That's very flattering. Why is that?
Basically, I think it's because they differ so much from the Diana Rigg ones. They've got a very charming antique quality because they were on video and not film.
What have you got from...
Cathy Gale?
Yes.
I've got just about everything I can lay my hands on. I have the Avengers.
Oh, right.
Star Special.
Yeah.
Which was only 2 and 6 back in the 60s. But I paid £250 for it.
Oh, my
because
goodness.
It's supposed to be the rarest publication that there is. So
Oh, really?
I'm quite proud to have that.
Tell me, what are the rarer mementos
The rarer
that you have?
Well, one of them is the 1966 Merit Shooting Game, which I think is incredibly rare. I only actually know one other person that has one.
Did you find that in this country?
No, I didn't actually. I found it in America, of all places.
Oh, really?
I've never seen one else. Just a plastic gun, really.
I have to say Patrick's nose looks a bit sharp on that.
But worth quite a lot of money now for its rarity.
I should think it is.
You're on the Blackman's Book of Self-Defence.
Yes, I've got a copy of that myself.
And also, one of the more rare things is 1966 Emma Peel doll,
Oh, right.
which unfortunately doesn't look very much like Diana Rigg.
Not a bit, but still, I've never seen that either.
It comes in 3 sets of clothes, so you can dress her up how you like.
Oh, really? Do you spend your time doing
I
that?
play with her occasionally.
Ian, it isn't just the classic Avengers series that you're interested in, is it? You go on from that, don't you?
It's not just the classic series, no, it's the whole history of the Avengers, how it evolved from initially in 1961 with Ian Hendry right through to the present day with the movie. I've got quite a vast new Avengers collection, one of which the rare items is the Jaguar, which was produced by Dinky but was never actually marketed, so
Oh, really?
that's quite an unusual item. Also got some of the rare records, the Purdy doll, which I believe is quite a rare and unusual item.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, she's not in her box. From the movie, I've got Uma Thurman's original dress that she wore in her opening scene, a Chinese dress.
Really? Did you go to the States to get that?
No, they turn up. They sort of like get taken after the film has been produced. I've also got the actual 14-inch Emma Peel miniature that they used for all the miniature shots, the puppet, which is quite something to have got hold of.
Oh, right.
Which is all flexible, and they can obviously move her to do all different sorts of things. But the reason I really love the Avengers is because I think it was so quintessentially English. Steve with his bowler hat and brolly, and it was just very, very different from anything at all that was around at the time, and it still is today.
I love the Avengers. He had some great things there, didn't he? Now, the first clue in this week's Golden Year competition. In a moment, you'll see a clip of a memorable event, and all you have to do is guess the year it happened. If you know the answer, give me a call, and you could be the lucky winner of a weekend away for 2 at the Johansson's recommended Tilney Hall Hotel near Hook in Hampshire. It's a Grade 2 listed building set in 66 acres of parkland with a whole range of leisure facilities, including an indoor and outdoor pool. So are you ready to have a go? In the October of this year, a 77-year-old Winston Churchill returned to power to form his first peacetime government.
By the voice of the people, Winston Churchill is once again called to guide our destiny at a time of difficult uncertainty.
Also in this year, Phil Collins was born, the Festival of Britain was held, and the classic book The Catcher in the Rye was published. If you think you know the answer, then give me a call. The number is 0900 144 7777. Lines are open until midnight on Thursday. There'll be more clues all week, and I'll let you know the answer on Friday. Well, that's the lot for today. Tomorrow, clothes for the Victorian gentleman, mustard pots, antique juggling equipment, and a mammoth collection of Meccano. Don't miss it. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Our Channel 4 book, Collector's Lot, A Nation of Collectors, featuring some of the most unforgettable collections, is available in paperback from bookshops or by calling the Channel 4 Books 24-hour order line on 01624 844 444. Calls are charged at the national rate. Next on 4, bring on the Eliminator with his 15 to 1.
Savour the organic world of Monty and Sarah Don.